here. Competitive. Did you notice which one is better and that stuff? Nice, very nice. Putting us up against each other, you know, a guy from Sweden and a guy from Germany, and now it's war until death, probably, Matthias, right? Something like that. So thank you very much for being here. It's my first visit to Lithuania. I learned that people are incredibly smart in Lithuania, so I put up a quiz. Right to the start, you need the post-it notes. Did you find them on your chairs? Some of you found one yellow and one orange, and others have one green and one yellow. And let's see if you are so smart. Okay, this is a quiz. These are terms, words that you will hear about during this conference, during this day. I mean, I'm not from the realm of software development. I'm taking you on a tour into an even worse environment, organizations as a whole, you know, firms, organizations as a whole. Entire organizations, not just project work, but organization work as a whole. So you see these words? Which of these words does not fit into the list? Which of these words is alien? If you know it, hold up an orange post-it, or the green or orange post-it, please. Anybody knows? Which is it? Love. Nope, of course not. That is just a teaser. No, love is it perfectly fits here. Why did he say love? Probably because, oh no, love and work. I say much the contrary. Work-life balance is a shitty, crappy, stupid idea. We need love in work, so love is perfect here. Which is the one? Compliance. Why is that not fitting into the list? Why doesn't it fit? Totally wrong. I won't even try to find the answer. You? Which? Leadership. Why doesn't that fit? No, it's wrong. Which one? Risk. No, that also fits perfectly into this. We need compliance as organizations. We need leadership. We need compliance. We need risk, good risk. Not too high, but a certain amount of risk. We need love. You know, it all comes out of what's happening in organizations. Let's see if you know it. No, quiz is the title. Super smart. Yes, very good. I'm in Lithuania. Welcome back to Lithuania, where people question everything. Very good. No, quiz is just the title. It's not part of the list. Which one? Quality? Cost. No, you are guessing. You don't understand what this is about. Cost, it's all outcomes of work. Cost, love, leadership, compliance, quality. No, you are the worst. No, customer satisfaction is also an important outcome of the work. Which one? What? Earnings. No, we have to earn money. Oh my God. Okay, I give up. Which one? Okay, that's one scheme. No, but I'm looking for another, I'm looking for another motive. The word that I'm looking, or the concept, not the word, the term here I'm looking for is the only one you can work upon directly. Which is the term, the concept here, which you can work upon directly, which you can almost touch and work upon. You can influence it directly. The other ones cannot be influenced. Fuck no. The product, guys, products. You can work on products. The rest is, in the complex world of today, only, among this list, only products can be truly influenced by us directly. We can work on the product, we can work on the code, we can, in some companies, we can take the product in our hands and work upon it. The other concepts like quality, love, trust, it cannot be acted upon directly. And that's the interesting thing here. Okay, it was a tough call, right? For example, if you want to have love in a relationship, you cannot make it. If you want quality in a company, you cannot make it. If you want to have good or adequate risk or earnings, you cannot make it. Compliance cannot be made. Products can be made. And that's why this is the term that doesn't fit into this list. That was a tough one, right? Question? No, you're late. Maybe the translation didn't trigger through. I'm not sure. Do we really understand this? So next one, I'll do this thing in Konas next week and see if the results are better. There, you know. So I'm here to talk to you or talk with you, to speak with you about the challenge that I think is the biggest challenge for the Agile movement. I don't believe that the biggest challenge for us in the Agile movement is to find the right techniques or implement the right tools. Definitely not. I mean, 15 years or so into Agile, we already know that the tools work and that you have plenty of tools to choose from and plenty of methods, and many of them work brilliantly. But the most important thing that we should have learned up to now is that Agile is the perfect alternative to what has been dying in the past so that we needed Agile? Well, project management. It didn't really work. I mean, we had project work to do, and we tried to solve project work, or to deal with it with project management, but project management was all crap. It didn't really work, you know? The methods didn't work, the spirit didn't work, the fact that project leaders tried to govern everything, it just didn't work out. So project management died at some point, and we had to, or you had to invent Agile. Now we have the same challenge in organizations as a whole. Management is actually dead. Stone dead. It's dead. It's gone. It's a dead horse. And those who ride it are clowns. Or, to put it differently, they are quacks. Do you know what a quack is? I don't know the word in Lithuanian, sorry. Do you know what a quack is? This is a quack. Do you see the guy doing something? The practice or the technique, what it is called? Do you know how it's called in English? What this quack here? This is the poor customer, and this is the quack. And what is he doing here? It's called bloodletting. The business equivalent for bloodletting in the business world today. The firm that does, or the synonym of bloodletting in the 20th century is called McKinsey. You see the parallel? Because it's people applying method that don't work. Bloodletting never worked. It was based on faith and on stupid assumptions about what caused certain pains. Most of all, we, at that time, in the European Middle Age, we thought that, well, pains and sicknesses were sent from God, so they were a good thing after all, right? And you had to suffer for it and pay for it, and bloodletting was one of the techniques that would kind of put you in a good position with God again, or actually kill you, which would be also fair enough because it was all God's play, right? So bloodletting was a terrible practice. Then we invented medicine, real medicine. This was not medicine, this is quackery. And in businesses, in work, in the world of work today, we are in a very similar situation like at this time. We are still practicing mostly bloodletting and quackery. You could also say it's all nonsense. Management has turned into nonsense. How did that happen? Well, management didn't start at nonsense. It was a great idea. And it was a great idea, the first idea was management. Then came project managements like 10 or 20 years after that. The invention of project management was just a consequence of what I'm about to tell you. So this is the time when management was invented. Everybody knows the name of this product, or has heard of it at least. It's the Ford Model T, you know, the first mass-produced car. Before that, there were also cars being manufactured, but they were manufactured basically one by one, you know, and by hand. Ford was the first firm to build cars in large scale. So this was the Ford Model T. That was the time when Henry Ford said things like, our customers can buy any car from us they want as long as it is black. You know, those were the great times. And before that, we also had, at the time, management was invented. It was invented just about the 1900s, 1910s, so about 100 years ago. Even before inventing management, we had managers. Because in the industrial age, 100 years ago, large-scale firms sprung up, and they had to be managed. This is a very good-looking guy, right? No. Okay. Well, at the time, he was a very sexy guy, I think. He was very smart. He was an author. He was He was a writer, he was a theorist, and he also was a manager at his family's firm. Do you know the name? Do you know who it is? He's a German, actually, 100 years ago, more or less. Anybody knows the name? He became an important writer and theorist. His name is Friedrich Engels. Heard about him? Well, Marx is more commonly referred to maybe, but this is Friedrich Engels, who actually wrote the manifesto initially. So Friedrich Engels was a brilliant author and also a manager at the time before management was invented. So we had other practitioners of management like this one. Henri Fayol in France. He was a manager over decades of a large-scale mining firm. Very successful manager, and he also tried to do exactly what we are doing here. He developed business practices, new business practices, tried to describe them, codify them, and explain them to others. And he wrote one of the first books in Europe about administration, detailing how it could work, describing the functions and so on. So Henri Fayol was one of the founders of management. But of course, the greatest figure in the history of management is an American, who wrote the famous book, The Principles of Scientific Management, in 1911. And he is the biggest hero of them all. So I think he is something like the inventor of management overall. More famous than the other one even, than Henri Fayol from France. And this is Frederick Taylor. Frederick Taylor had a fantastic idea for the 20th century. He had this great idea that in industrial large-scale production, in these newly emerging industrial markets, you would achieve maximum efficiency by, and this is frequently misunderstood, Frederick Taylor had this great idea of dividing the thinking from the doing. And this is the essence, the DNA of management. It became one of the most important principles of industrial age work, or the most guiding principle. We as working people and as organizations, we learned to divide between thinking and doing. Frederick Taylor said, if you have thinkers who organize, who plan and control the work for the doers, then you can have a thinking factory at the top and the factory, the real factory at the bottom, the workers at the bottom, and it will be really, really efficient. And Frederick Taylor developed lots of concepts around this model of organizing the work. This was highly innovative, because before Taylor, we didn't have thinkers and doers. We had masters and apprentices who worked together collaboratively in small workshops and in customized work relationships with their clients, intimately with their clients. They actually worked very much like you work today in software development. So Frederick Taylor turned the world upside down by saying, no, we don't need masters and apprentices anymore. That's not scalable. To scale industrial age production and to make it efficient, we drive efficiency through this principle. And then you can divide the doing, the work, into functions and departments. So you divide hierarchically, and then you divide functionally. That was a great idea. It guides all management. So this is the DNA of management. Every time you hear somebody explaining a business concept or a tool, you should ask yourself, does it divide between thinkers and doers? And then you know it's Frederick Taylor. And you are all Taylorists. I know that because you work in this kind of organization, don't you? Who doesn't work in this kind of organization? Well, yes. Okay, there's always somebody nosy who doesn't work in this kind of organization. But most of you work in organizations that have this thing, an org chart, right? And an org chart, look at it. It shows that there are thinkers at the top and doers at the bottom. Because an org chart, look at the lines between the boxes. It shows power relationships. Who decides is on top, and those who listen and to the commands are at the bottom. So in an org chart, the org chart is one of the first Tayloristic tools. Then, of course, came many more, budgeting and data strategy and all that crap, and project management invented by one of Taylor's associates called Henry Gantt. That was in about 1918, I think, that Henry Gantt developed the Gantt chart together with some other people. So one of the first people to criticize this is one of my heroines. She was a successful entrepreneur 100 years ago almost, successful woman entrepreneur, consultant, and author. And she, 100 years ago almost, she complained that the term leadership had been abused upside down. What we call leadership, she said, it's not leadership, it's commanding, it's dictating. It has nothing of leadership. So this is one of the criticisms that this brilliant woman, Mary Parker Follett, articulated very bravely also, already 80, 90 years ago. She's also maybe the first successful lesbian businesswoman of history. She was a great personality, great woman. And this is one of my other heroes, a little bit later now, 1950s, 1960s, Douglas MacGregor. And he is one of the first anti-tailors. He was one of the first to understand that the age of Taylorism was coming to an end. Because Taylorism was perfect for the industrial age, for these newly emerging mass markets, with mass production, etc., where you could standardize and plan and preview and forecast everything. And towards the 1950s and 60s, the first academics and practitioners, they sensed, oh, this is coming to an end. We are facing the problems of Taylorism, of turning people into non-thinking worker bees, or robots, as my colleague Matthias said before. So Douglas MacGregor, he noted that this thinking between the division between thinking and doing, it was problematic, and it was based on certain assumptions. And he started researching motivation. And I would like to invite you now to pick up your Post-it notes. You will need them now, and a pen. You need a pen. If you don't have a pen, share a pen with a colleague. You know, ask somebody around you to pen. You will not have to write a lot. Just very, very little. Just one letter and a number. So don't worry, just very little. Pick up the Post-it notes. But first, I would like to show you what Douglas MacGregor explained us 50 years ago. In his book, The Human Side of the Enterprise, MacGregor said, we actually have two theories about human nature in our heads. Two theories about human nature that we carry around with us. One of these theories, Douglas MacGregor, he called it Theory X, on the left side, and the other he called Theory Y. It's on the right side. So Douglas MacGregor said, okay, Theory X is that idea of human nature that is, people dislike work, you have to force them to develop some effort. People will avoid the work if they can, so you have to bribe them or force them so that they make an effort, right? People will not like to accept responsibility. They will try to avoid that if they can. So they must be directed externally. People must always be pushed a little bit, you know, externally, extrinsically, to develop some effort. You can use money or fear to do that, to push them and to incentivize them, right? Somebody's laughing. I don't know. Why are you laughing? Why are you laughing? What? It's okay? Yeah? You like that? Yeah, okay. So Theory X, maybe he recognized something, his boss or his whatever, you know. Then the assumption about motivation in Theory X is, okay, people are motivated mainly by money and by fear about their job security. And management should use these motives, fear and money, to drive behavior, you know, to incentivize the right behavior. And then there is an assumption about creativity also in Theory X, which is few people are actually capable of creativity. Most people aren't. They just develop some creativity when it's about circumnavigating management rules and that kind of stuff. So people are only creative when it's about avoiding the work, you know. So this is Theory X. Do you see that it's a consistent theory about human nature? It's logical in it. Yeah? It's very consistent. Now there's the second theory, Theory Y. Theory Y is exactly the opposite. It says people need the money, they work for the money. Or they need to work to have the money to feed themselves and their loved ones, but they don't work for the money. They actually want to enjoy work. And under the right circumstances, people strive for self-development, for growth at work. So we want to fulfill our potential at work, potentially, under the right conditions. And under this premise, under this assumption, people will self-direct themselves, and they will also accept responsibility, if the conditions are right. So the assumption about motivation here in Theory Y is, Under the right conditions, people are motivated by the desire to realize, to fulfill their own potential. Very simple, right? On the left side, in theory X, it's money and fear, and on the right side is we want to realize our potential. And then there is an assumption about creativity here as well. Most people are creative, or everyone can be creative even, under the right conditions, but this potential is hugely underused by organizations. You understood these theories? Theory X, theory Y? Okay, now let's do some science. Please take the green or orange Post-it, not the yellow one, not the yellow one. The green or, everybody has a Post-it in his or her hands, yes? Okay, please ask yourself, what kind of person am I? Ask yourself, what kind of person are you? And then write that letter on the orange or green Post-it. Any questions about the exercise? What? How can anyone write X? Well, we will see. We will see if somebody writes an X. That's a good question, but let's see. Let's research it first. You know, that's the nature of research. Any questions? Both sides. Do you feel both sides inside you?
No, I mean, what if you have qualities from one side and from other side, like motivation from one side and direction?
No, you cannot have mix. It would be inconsistent. The theory on the left is logical in itself, and the right one is also logical. You cannot mix. There are no mixes. And these don't mix. Please assume for during this research session that we are doing right now, it's research, scientific research, please assume that this doesn't mix. And you cannot have the right motivation and be the left kind of person. No, 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 no. No, no. What the fuck? No. You know, you're either X or Y, otherwise it doesn't fit. Is it okay? No, it's not okay. If it's not okay, I can explain later, yeah? Anybody else filled it out? You wrote one letter on this. What kind of person are you, right? Okay, now please switch the paper with your neighbor next to you. Just exchange it. This is the time to make the introduction. I'm Elisa, my name is Otto, whatever your name is, you know. Just switch it, just give it to another person, and, okay. And this was exciting, switching, right? But now take the yellow one, yellow Post-it. Now the complexity goes up. Look, complexity goes up. Now stop thinking about yourself, how am I? Start thinking about what are the others like. So please think about your organization. Let's see, where do you work? You look like working in a larger organization. Which one? Bluebridge, okay. How many people are at Bluebridge?
100.
He doesn't know. Okay, you're a software developer probably, right? I assume. Fuck the others. I mean, I have my computer. I have 2 monitors. So how many people at Bluebridge? Estimate.
About 200.
About 200. Okay, he started with 120 and then he went up to 200. Marketing guy. See? Okay, so in his case, he would think, okay, what are these 200 people in my firm, Bluebridge? What are they like? And now the question, what you have to write on the yellow Post-it is, what percentage of these people in your organization, anybody has a problem with defining what my organization is? Huh? But sometimes it's not that easy, you know. If you are in an international conglomerate, try to do this for the whole group, okay? So please write here the percentage of X people within your organization, and now pay close attention, pay good attention. We are not talking about behavior here. We're talking about human nature. Human nature. So what's the percentage of theory X people by human nature in your organization? Just the percentage of theory X people. Any questions about that? How to solve that? Theory X. What's the percentage of theory X people? Yes, you had a question? Human nature, not behavior. Yes, very important. Can you distinguish between human nature and behavior?
So, is it possible that the person is theory Y by nature, but acts? Sorry.
This is science, man. First the research, then the theory. You know, the theory development. We are first doing the research. Is it possible that? Well, did you listen to my words? Human nature, not behavior. Clear? I think you got it. He got it, right? Okay, everybody wrote the percentage on the paper? There's no wrong or right, just write what you feel, okay? Now please exchange the yellow Post-it with your neighbor again. Give it to the other person. Yeah? So you again have two post-its, right? Two sticky notes. Yeah? Okay, okay. Shh. Results. Let's check the results. First, the orange and green post-its, please. Orange or green? Orange or green. Take a look at it. Read the letter. If there is an X on it, on the one you're holding in your hand, you have to hold it up now. Only X's. X's. Up. No, I don't see a post-it. Do it right. Hold up the post-it. Yes. 2 X's, 3, 4, 6. Well, why does it take it so long? 10, right? 10. So that's 0. Thank you. 0. Okay, that was all mistake. So that was just noise. You know, in statistics, we call that noise. Don't ever believe in any statistics that you yourself didn't falsify, you know. Take the yellow post-it notes. We saw that there were about 10 X's in the room, right? Okay. And now the yellow one, who has 0 or 0% written on it? 0, just the zeros. Now take a close look around. This is important, very important. How many do we have? Maybe 20 or so? See that we are all fucked up. We are fucked, you know, because I asked you at the beginning, what is the challenge of the Agile movement? It is not tools. It is not processes. It is not better practices. We first would have to change this thing here. And it hasn't changed. So we are fucked, you know? Why is this crucial? Who gets it? Why is this crucial? Is it clear that we are fucked?
Agile works just for theory Y people.
Exactly. Agile is designed and works just for theory Y people. Now, the problem is not that we don't have theory Y people in our organizations. Did you see it? We only have theory Y people in organizations. It's always like that on these post-its. It's always in these sticky notes. It's always like this. No, I know for sure that I am a theory Y person. But those other people, they are fucked up. You know? And look what you did. You know? Oh, there are theory X people. No. Read this book by Douglas McGregor 50 years ago. He wrote, there has never been a theory X person in the world. It couldn't even exist. It couldn't even sit here. Got it? You know, babies, children. And so, have you ever seen one? You know, these cute little. Do they learn by fear or money? Are they driven by fear or money? Hell no. No, maybe you are, but no, you aren't either. You told me with some statistical error noise that you aren't. So everybody knows I'm a theory Y person, but the others, I'm not so sure about it. Why does that happen? We have an observation mistake, an observation error embedded here. We observe other people's behavior, don't understand it, conclude stupid stuff like, he's a fucked up shit. You know, he's a stupid idiot. He doesn't understand anything. Do I talk Japanese? That kind of stuff, you know? So we conclude, oh, he's an Xer. He's an X person. But no, there is no X person on Earth. An X person will never exist. It doesn't exist. None of these has ever existed. But of course, our organizations are perfect for Xers. By the way, Douglas McGregor, 50 years ago, he wrote, the industrial age organization was built to suit a human being, an image of human nature that in reality doesn't really it doesn't really exist, you know? It's fake. It only exists in our head. The idea that people are lazy and stupid and driven by money. Salespeople, for example, you know? You have this? Anyone here has a sales department in his or her organization? Hands up. Sales department? Yeah. So in sales, usually we have fat bonuses, right? Because we assume that salespeople are super X, you know? Super X. X-Men. You know? So, oh, fat money, bonuses, carrots and stick, and so on, and punishments, and so on. So, yeah, it is all fake nonsense. It's bloodletting. It's dangerous stuff. One of the my heroes, another hero of mine, who explained brilliantly what's wrong in today's organization is this one, Russell Eckhoff, a systems theorist who died a couple of years ago. He said beautiful things like, in complex systems, You cannot improve the whole system by improving individual parts. Actually, fiddling with individual parts and improving or optimizing them can damage the whole. So if you want to improve a system, you have to improve the interactions. That's what Agile is about. It's not about having better people or smarter people, because we have great people and smart people and actually creative people, because according to theory, why everyone has creative potential. You got that? So we don't have a people problem. We have a work problem. We have an organization problem. We have to improve the interactions between the parts. Also, of course, interactions with clients and customers. So systems, don't try to improve them with tools. One of the biggest mistakes in the Agile movement is that we still try to solve everything with tools. That's the most stupid idea. It goes back to Frederick Taylor's days. Frederick Taylor, 100 years ago, he had the great vision of uniting, creating a better world for both managers and workers. He had a social vision of creating peace between the two groups. And then there was one little mistake. The methods that he provided, that he invented at the time, the management tools, dividing between thinkers and doers, that didn't create peace. It created social hatred and, of course, ineffectiveness in the long run. In the short run, it worked brilliantly. But in the long run, well, we didn't achieve peace. So let's stop. And Frederick Taylor's followers were the worst. They only loved the tools, not the idea behind the tools. The same happened in the 1970s with Toyota. Everyone marveled at the Toyota miracle, at the Japanese miracle, as they called it at the time. And then people started imitating the tools, not the spirit. And the same, I think, is happening in the Agile sphere, right? Oh, the tools, lovely, love it. But it's nothing without the idea, without the spirit, and without the right idea of human nature. Oh, another god of our science, of our class, of organizing the work. He's our hero. He's the hero of the Agile movement. Deming. Oh, he was also so badly copied by his imitators, right? His imitators only loved the quality tools, but he always preached quality as a systems characteristic, as a religion. So he preached the religion of flow, for example, and of optimizing, improving whole systems. And Toyota learned a few bits of that. Deming said something very wise. In 95% of the mistakes and the problems that we observe in work and organizations, in only 95% of the problems that we observe, these problems are not rooted in people, they are rooted in the system. Only 5% of the problems that we observe have their roots in people. People are rarely the problem. Much more often, the system is the problem, in 95%. So don't improve people, we have to learn improving systems. But then again, people love, and managers had fallen in love at the time already when Deming became famous in the 70s, and also before when Douglas McGregor did his work in the 1950s and 60s. We had fallen in love with command and control, with Taylorism at its worst, right? We didn't even do good Taylorism. Most companies did bad Taylorism. Rule of thumb, command and control, stupid stuff. Nothing about optimizing system, optimizing the work. So managers and consulting firms also, they had fallen in love with formal structure. The true thing about organization is, yes, they have a formal structure, but power relationship, right? Thinkers at the top and doers at the bottom in most organizational charts, it's just like that. We could find better ways of depicting organizations because there are two more structures in every organization. Now, hold your breath. What are the other structures? This is just, in a theater, you have a stage and you have a backstage. And most of the action is on the backstage, right? Of course, the audience can only see the stage. But this is the front stage. The backstage is this informal structure or social structure. This is where the action happens, right? This is where we like, dislike, do the politics, do the wrangling, the emotional stuff of the organization, the socializing stuff, it all happens here. Very powerful in organizations. And then something that only until recently Only very few people understood. People at Toyota, for example, they understood it. Of course, theorists like Deming and McGregor, they understood it decades ago. The most important structure, this one, it is important, it is necessary, every organization has it. Social structure, you put people together in a room, they socialize. But the most important structure for an organization is value creation structure. And value is never created from the top down or from the bottom up. Organizations actually don't have tops and bottoms. It's just a beautiful illusion from the industrial age, you know? No tops and bottoms. Just like Theory X people don't exist, no tops and bottoms, okay? What we really have is inside and outside. And people like Russell Eckhoff and Edward Deming, they taught us to distinguish between the inside and the outside of an organization, and between center and periphery, and that work or value creation flows from the inside out. Customer demand pulls, and value creation happens from the inside out. Toyota has, better than most organizations in this world, learned how to focus and work and focus the work of everyone in the organization, all the thinkers of doers that they have, thousands and tens of thousands of people, actually 200,000 people, to focus them on optimizing value creation. Not talk about cost. Cost is formal structure. You know, strategy is formal structure. But flow and value creation and reducing waste, that's value creation structure. And it requires people at the center of the organization to think and do, and in the periphery of the organization to think and do as well. And if you look at it more closely, an organization cannot even be governed with individual targets, and you are my salesperson, I give you a target and an incentive and bonus, and you run. Value is created only through teams, people performing with each other, for each other. So imagine in every cell of this network designed here, there are several people working together for other cells or for the external customer if they are in the periphery. So systems theory, that was born also about 70, 80 years ago, it taught us to take a look at organizations in this way. Not organizations as power pyramids, but as decentralized networks that create value dynamics. And now look at that, every organization has three kinds of structures. The formal structure doesn't have to look like a pyramid, but at this point, most organizations only know to draw that. In fact, every organization in this world has a formal structure to create compliance. It has a social structure because we as human beings need to socialize, even the nerdiest nerd of them all, even the guy here who works for Blue Bridge and doesn't know how many other people are in his organization. You know, we all socialize. You also socialize, right? We all do it. We actually dedicate a lot of time to that, yeah? Like it or not. And we also have to create value. And even the worst organization in the world creates value, and that's where Agile fits in. It is, of course, the much better framework to create value for customers in project work. Now, the challenge is, how do we create organizations, entire organizations, as value networks? Or, and this is the challenge, how do we change from command and control, pyramid, Taylorism on the left, to decentralized network value creation structure, and where we don't care about this formal structure stuff that much. We take care of compliance, but that's about it. We don't want to have any of that other stuff. How do we do it? I have a friend, his name is Paul. He's a wise old man, he's over 60. I hope he doesn't mind hearing that. He's a little bit older than most of us in this room. And he's an expert in change and organizational development. And last year I became more intimate with the Agile movement. I got to know lots of people from the Agile movement, and I started talking to him about, Paul, why don't you start talking to those people in Agile? And he said, well, they are all very well-intentioned, but they don't understand shit about change. And I'm just citing that here. You know, I'm not saying that at all, but I think he's right. We are bad at change. The Agile movement, as of now, today, we know the tools, you know the tools, you know the practices, but how to transform people's minds and mental models. For example, their image of human nature. We haven't yet figured that out that well, right, in the Agile movement, I think. So we have all the good intentions, we have all the right practices. Many of you have gotten rid of the project management mindset. Now we have to teach entire organizations how to get rid of theory X mindset and management mindset. To get rid of this dogma on the left, on the past, that some people still believe is successful, but in fact it was successful. It isn't successful anymore. It's a dead horse. Just to give you a couple of examples, we have to be practical, right? So I'm a consultant that I want to create value for you. This is what I call the $1 million slide. If you have a larger organization, here are HR practices, just to leave the realm of software development and go into HR. These are all HR practices that are based on theory X, human nature, which means it can't work, because a theory X being hasn't existed, doesn't exist, will never exist. So if you know any of these practices, do you recognize some from HR? They don't work. They actually never worked, but hey, okay, let's forget it. You did project management at some point and then learned about Agile, so we can change, right? But nothing of this here, of this crap, really works. Any questions about it? I will give you an example. Performance appraisal, do you know what it is? Yeah, performance appraisal is manager evaluates underling at least once a year, but you can also have the fuck back method, bottom up, you know. The employee can evaluate the boss. That's just vengeance, you know, it's vicious, but it's fun, you know. It's fun. Doesn't work, demotivates everyone. Performance appraisal, if it really worked, you know, if it would really work, wouldn't you, anybody here has girlfriends, boyfriends, husband, wife, that kind of stuff? Yes. Okay, good. Well, the guy from Bluebridge, I don't know. Sorry, you guys. No, it's not personal, nothing personal. Okay, so you have girlfriends, boyfriends, that kind of stuff, you know. So imagine you would call your loved one and say, well, no, honey, do you say something like that in Lithuania? Yeah, honeybee. It's the end of the year, you know, we have to sit down and evaluate your performance of the last 12 months. So, and we are an agile household, so we defined measures a couple of months ago, you know, and we measured everything. It's like a balanced scorecard and something, so we have different key performance indicators, and I can tell you, honey, still honey, you know, you performed well in some indicators, in other, not so much, you know. There's still room for improvement, and we will also talk about the targets for next year and the bonus you might earn. You know, so performance appraisal, if it worked, you would do it at home. Anybody does that kind of thing? There's always somebody in the first row who says, I do it, you know, and my reply is always, you just did it once, you know, just once. So you understand, all these practices come from the industrial age. They are inherited. We could make another slide of this, and more for finance management, or performance management, or project management, of course, and all those other management things that do not work, because they are based on flawed assumptions about how systems work and about what people are. You know, everything that's based on theory X is garbage. And everything that's based on the assumptions that you can improve a system by improving the parts is ridiculous in complexity. So we have to learn a lot. And one of the first ones to sense that is this guy, Austrian Peter Drucker. And Peter Drucker said something beautiful. He said 90%, this was decades ago, 90% of what we call management are actually practices that stand in the way of people doing their work. And he was almost right. 90% of what we call management are practices that don't work, that stand in the way of work, that destroy value, actually. It's just like that with project management. He could have said the same thing about project management, right? Just that the percentage is wrong. Probably 95% of the practices are crap, right? So these practices from the industrial age, they worked well for a couple of decades, but now not anymore. Management and project management, it somehow died about 1970. Did you notice? Well, we were also young, right? We were also young. We couldn't have noticed. But some companies figured it out. So just to give you an example, a few examples of companies that figured out the code of this new type of organization. I like to call it the peach organization, the round one, you know, the value creation-based one. This is also an enormously attractive man, I believe. At least he was in the 1970s with his haircut. He's older now, Herb Kelleher. He founded in 1971, he founded an amazing company called Southwest Airlines. It became the most successful airline in the world. He says, we don't have a strategic plan, we don't have a strategy. If we had one, our strategy would be, we do things. Sounds very much like Agile, right? And indeed, they developed lots of practices that you will find in Agile project work as well. So Southwest Airlines became the best airline in the world, both in value creation for its shareholders and customers and for the employees. It's the most successful airline in the world, has been for 40 years. It's an amazing company, without command and control. And we have been talking a lot over the last couple of years about the evils of the financial industry and how all banks are crap. Most are, right? Most are crap. Most are so badly governed, most have treated their employees as theory X idiots or donkeys for decades, right? So what they earn is selfishness, greed, stupidity, organizational stupidity, not people stupidity, but organizational stupidity, and also crime, right? I mean, non-compliance or crime. One bank that has done everything, or almost everything differently for 40 years. You know which bank I'm referring to? Europe's best bank. Anybody here knows who that is, which bank it is? It's Sweden's Handelsbanken. Interestingly, well, all the Swedish banks are here. This is the least well-known one in Lithuania, isn't it? They are not that aggressive, which is part of their philosophy. Just like Toyota did never acquire another big car manufacturer, they couldn't, right? They couldn't because they would fuck up their own model, their own organizational model, their philosophy, their values. In the same style, Handelsbanken has never acquired or made a fusion, you know, an acquisition with another bank. They for 40 years, they have never made a budget. They don't have fixed targets. There are no bonuses at Handelsbanken. There is no org chart. There are no performance appraisals. There is no marketing department, no risk department. Well, they are breaking every rule, right? But they are the best rated organization or bank in their industry. They are the most competitive bank in Europe, the best bank. They have been for 39 years now. They have the most satisfied employees and the most satisfied customers. So believe it or not, they only have 3 hierarchical levels. 10,000 employees, 3 hierarchical levels. And they say that's completely scalable. We don't need more hierarchical levels. They have solved the riddle. And another great company, of course, is the one founded by this couple in 1958, also in the United States, W. L. Gore. These are Bill and Vive Gore. No, these are Bill and Vive Gore. They founded this company in 1958. They now have around 9,000 employees, which they, of course, don't call employees, but associates. They have gotten rid of job descriptions, the org chart, the hierarchical structure. Well, I think you understand it. How could they do it? Because they believed early on in theory Y, and that there are only theory Y people. So they could build a company that doesn't need hierarchy nor command and control. This is another fantastic company example. This is the co-founder and, until very recently, CEO, and also the main owner of DM Drogeriemarkt, a German pharmaceutical chain, or drugstore chain, actually. They now have 50,000 employees. And about 20 years ago, this company, DM, they learned that they had fallen into the Tayloristic or command and control trap, and they changed their organization radically. They learned that they wouldn't need so much hierarchy, that they would have to get rid of the budgets and of the people commanding the stores that they have. They have thousands of stores. So they said, no, the stores have to be managed by the people who are there, and they run it like their own business. So this is a brilliant example of a company that has become also the most successful in its industry, DM Drogeriemarkt. Another one from Brazil, even in the so-called third world, and countries that supposedly don't have haven't had such an advanced management thinking for a long time. This is also one of my heroes, Ricardo Semler of Semco. About 30 years ago, he transformed his own company, Semco, to become one of the most admired companies in the world, one of the craziest and most democratic workplaces. So all these organizations, including, and now here, Taiichi Ohno of Toyota also is another example, a company that transformed itself completely in the 1950s and 1960s, leaving command and control behind and becoming a highly decentralized, highly empowered network. But only by, how could they do it? By believing that every worker is a theory Y person. And that a worker can not only think, he has to think. And that's why everyone at Toyota, everyone gets trained in the whole Toyota way. And they take their time, because that's what's needed. Would they not empower everyone to improve the work all the time, they couldn't sustain this kind of radically decentralized, radically empowered organizational model. And of course, you know, there's these guys who also created a great organization based on the very same principles in a completely different industry, that is software, right? So we know lots of organizations, plenty of examples of organizations that have overcome industrial age Tayloristic command and control, the industrial age organizational model that still is the standard in the world. But many organizations have found a new model. Also, this is another great example. Service company, very boring business, right? Internet sales of shoes initially. The company is called Zappos, and this is Tony Hsieh. Many companies have found how to sustain an organization that is highly networked, highly decentralized, based on theory Y assumptions, based on the right HR practices, the right finance practices, the right compliance practices. There is a solution for everything in this world of the decentralized networked organization, but we have to find them. And this is one of the greatest slides because it shows the whole family. These are organizations. There is a story to each and every one of these organizations. I can only show the lists to you. These are some of the best, or many of the best cases that we found for this new kind of organization. It is emerging everywhere, in every sector, and in every country. It is not utopia, this kind of organizational model that I'm talking about, of course. That's why I'm talking about the cases as well. We have to learn to transform our organizations from command and control to this new model. Just as Toyota transformed itself in the 1950s and 60s, Handelsbanken transformed itself in the 1970s, DM did it in the 90s, and Semco did it in the 80s. So we have a choice, actually, between the old model and the new one, the new and emerging one. We just have to do it. But now, the difficult part. I'm coming to the end, but this is the difficult part. You see, you don't understand much about change, as my friend Paul said. I would never say anything like that, right? But we don't understand change so well. We know the tools, we love the tools, but we also think that software developers, we are very smart and the others just don't get it, which is just a stupid assumption, another theory X thing. They also struggle with the same problems that you are struggling in software development or in IT. It's just that they also have their difficulties of understanding the alternative, believing in it, putting it to work, trusting that others, like IT, will believe in it. I come from a movement, it is called the Beyond Budgeting Roundtable, or the Beyond Budgeting Movement. And 15 years ago, we started developing something like Agile for finance and performance management. So one of the first things that we found out is budgeting is crap. You know, just like you found out, well, waterfall is really real crap, right? And milestones don't work. So we discovered that and did some serious research. We also found all these companies that I just talked about. And then we figured out, oh, this isn't about finance management. We can never transform an entire organization, but just by transforming finance, the finance function, the finance department, the finance processes. We need to understand HR, IT, oh no, nerds. Nerd alarm, you know. Some of us didn't want to work with other people, so we had our clashes. We have to learn to work together. HR, finance, even people in compliance, IT, everyone has to work together to transform organizations. Because, believe it or not, everyone, any audience you can imagine here in this room, in this yellow paper, orange, green paper exercise, all audience would vote the same. We could invite your colleagues from your organizations here, they would vote just the same. So our problem is, it's easy to create a startup, to be a pioneer of your organization. But then when organizations grow, they fall into the trap of believing, well, others cannot be trusted. We are too many to be such a social organization, so informal. Now we need structure. And we need titles and hierarchy and departments and budgeting and strategy and all that crap, and let's call McKinsey now. You know, you got through this kind of process? So what we found out is most organizations move from being a startup to moving Tayloristic pyramid, and here they stay until they die. Few organizations have made the step from differentiation, from Tayloristic command and control pyramid, to the new model, which some scientists call the integration phase of an organization, in which we don't divide the organization hierarchically and functionally, we integrate it again so that it becomes a network of mini enterprises that are connected with each other and that respond to market demand, to market pull. Few have made this step, so we have to learn it. And some of the gurus in the business world, they have preached us how to do this forever. Kurt Lewin, one of the wisest men in history, he told us that you can only understand a system. Do you know this citation of his? You can only understand a system if you really try to change it. Otherwise, you cannot understand it. Systems are so complex, they have these patterns and complexities. You can only understand them if you try to change them. That's why so many of us get really surprised that when we implement the best tools in the Agile sphere, crazy things happen. Even resistance come up. Well, we have to understand the systems dynamics. Kurt Lewin was one of the first to describe them. Then systems theorists from around the world. This is a German systems theorist, another one of my heroes, Niklas Luhmann from the University of Bielefeld. He very smartly described how to change entire organizations, how to describe entire organizations and complex systems, what kind of rules or principles they govern them. And this is Alfie Kohn. He's a social scientist who taught us decades ago that bonuses can never motivate. The carrot and stick can never motivate. It can only destroy motivation. Incentives cannot work. They have never worked. We also already knew that since Douglas McGregor's time, but he kind of did the whole research about why this is really so, and why all sciences confirm that incentives and fear only damage performance in the long term. And this is Peter Sanger, and from him we can learn, well, people actually like change. We are masters of change. Again, we are masters of change, and human beings are very much used to change. There's one thing that we don't like. We don't want to be changed. People love change. Everybody hates to be changed. And I think that's a lesson that we still have to learn in the Agile movement as well. Let everyone be the change. Don't force it upon them. This man here is one of my mentors of the past, Robin Fraser from the Beyond Budgeting Roundtable. His key message, and I believe that's key to the Agile movement as well, is in order to create transformation, we need radical decentralization. Radical decentralization of decision-making. Taylorism is built upon centralization. In complex times, in these markets of today, centralization is a luxury we cannot afford any longer. So we have to change our organizational model. And then, if you really want to start learning more about change, this is an author and an expert, this is an expert to start with, John Kotter, former Harvard Business School teacher, the youngest teacher at the time at Harvard Business School ever. And he taught us ways to do change in an agile way, in a social way, and not by prescribing it, programming it, or defining deadlines and waterfall methods, but by doing it socially. Okay, the challenge is huge. We know that. We know it's not easy to transform, but one thing I hope that you take with you, we have to start with our minds. And for example, by working on our assumptions on human nature. We are screwed. We are totally fucked up. We have to change our belief systems, then the tools can follow. And we also have to practice, we have to change practices and rituals. Many methods have to be thrown away, otherwise this new organization cannot evolve, it cannot exist, it cannot be created. So we have to change the practices, the tools, and the beliefs and the mindsets. As a sum up, I would like to offer you this. This has been researched over and over. There are many names for the new model and for the old model. You can call the old model Taylorism or command and control or alpha, as I like to call it. And you can call the new model whatever you like it. I call it beta. What I can tell you for sure is the name is not the important thing. The most important thing is the principles behind it. And we need to learn the principles. Just as the Agile movement, the Agile framework, applied intelligently is a framework of principles, not of tools. Organizational transformation can only succeed if we understand that it's based on certain principles. And this is a set of principles that nicely describes different organizational dimensions. There are some dimensions here that you will not find directly in the Agile principles or manifesto. Because organizations as a whole, they need to deal also with things like money. How are people being paid? What does performance management look like? And so how do we manage resources? It's a very, well, that's important in Agile as well, but it becomes even more crucial if we want to transform whole organizations. So this is a set of principles to start with. It has come out of our research of the last 15 years, and the research on the cases of organizations like the ones I explained, Toyota, Handelsbanken, Semco, Southwest Airlines. So we already know what the new model looks like. We know what the old model looks like. Now it's our choice. And every day we stop, every day we hesitate and think, oh, it's impossible to transform. We perpetuate the old model that isn't really fit neither for markets nor for our organizations. It is not fit for shareholders, nor for customers, nor for us as people working in organizations. So there is an urgent call for transformation, and I would like to invite you not to only fight for Agile project work in IT or software development, but to actually start fighting as well for organizational transformation as a whole, and to start practicing it. It's never too late. Thank you very much.
Does anybody have questions for Niels? No questions right now. So I hope you will ask questions later, but Niels, I have a gift for you also.
Very nice. Thank you very much. Excellent. Thank you.
So now I would like to invite all the speakers